Hi, everybody. Welcome to our weekly podcast for the Lake Erie Regional Grade Program. I'm Jennifer Phillips-Russo, Viticulture Extension Specialist, and I'm here with our Kevin Martin, our Business Management Specialist, who wants to talk a little bit about the New York sick leave requirement that's going on, what we know, what we still don't know, and action items that we need to hear about. So, Kevin.
Yeah, so if you're one of our Pennsylvania growers, you can disregard this podcast or take a listen to it to see, where trends are in regulating labor and where things might go federally or in Pennsylvania as different governments are inspired by different governments to pass certain things. But on an immediate basis, no worries for you. But in New York, today is the day, 9/30/2020. It's part of the 2020 Budget Act from passed earlier this year. So what is happening today is employees of all employers begin accruing sick time. Employers don't need to allow employees to use that sick time yet. That happens on January 1st of 2021. But right now, the accrual begins. So that's.
Kevin, I have a question. I'm sorry to interrupt this is all employees, part-time, full-time, or just full-time employees?
So for the most part, it's all employees. So when we start talking about who the employees are, we don't know everything yet. But what we do know is 1 hour of sick time must be accrued for every 30 hours worked. So theoretically, if you had an employee that only worked 29 hours and was then laid off or terminated permanently, then obviously they wouldn't acquire, an hour's worth of sick time.
And that starts today, moving forward. 30 hours after today, they get an hour of sick time.
So the accrual should start in your next pay period. So for work beginning today. What we don't know if there are any exemptions from what an employee is. You mentioned part-time versus full-time. That doesn't matter. But we don't know if this applies to youth workers under the age of 18. We don't know if this applies to family members, if they might be exempt as a farm laborer from the fair. So in the farm labor law, family members are exempt from other portions of that law. We don't know if family members are going to be exempt from this or not. The regulations have not been released yet. The good news is right now, all we're doing is accruing sick time. So you do want to make sure you document those accruals. Since they can't use them yet, hopefully we've got regulations before the end of the year to address some of these unknown issues.
I do have another question. So this is new.
This is new.
This is new for most people or for some people?
So it is not to be confused with, and I don't want to really talk about the requirements because it's a little bit complicated, but the first sick leave law that was passed that involved paid time off for being sick was specifically related to coronavirus. And it's essentially viewed as a temporary law because presumably coronavirus won't be with us forever. So this is the first in New York or Pennsylvania or federally that specifically addresses sick time for employees. That's more general sick time. And the law addresses specific instances and what they mean by sick time.
That's my next question.
Yeah, this isn't personal time. You can't use it to take a vacation, but it's also not sick time like you can't require someone to have a doctor's note just to get the day off either. This is what you would consider regular sick time, and the law specifically spells out what being sick is, both physical and mental illnesses, and also absences for other reasons related to domestic violence and sick time of a family member. So it's actually a fairly broad definition of sick leave. It does include a couple of things that an employer may not have included in their own sick leave policy. I know, for example, there are some heavy restrictions on my sick leave policy for family members. I get some, probably meets the requirements of this law, but you know, I work for a public university, so there are definitely private employers out there that have more restrictive policies that will have to broaden them out to include uh, family member issues, and they want to specifically include domestic violence as part of their sick leave policy.
Like my head is spinning about this because this is like a whole HR thing. Do they have to, I mean, you can't deny them sick time. Is like, is this all new to our growers, or is what I'm trying to get at? Is this a
Yeah, I
whole,
think so. I think the one thing I would say, and we want to address this pretty specifically, is it's actually, it might be fairly common for some of our growers um, with their pruning crews, with their maybe even their full-time help, certainly their part-time help, to allow unlimited sick leave that's not paid. Now, if you have 4 or fewer employees, this sick leave requirement does not require you to pay the sick leave. If you have 5 or more, this sick leave has to be paid. So one of the open questions we have is we don't really know how to count to 4 yet.
oh,
Our guidance right now is if you have 4 people who work for you on payroll at any given time in a calendar year, even if they only work very minimally, we want you to start accruing sick time. It's possible that when the regulations come out, there's a more specific definition of what 4 employees look like. Does it mean 8,000 hours of labor per year, like 4 full-time equivalents, or something less than that? Right now, we don't know. So, you know, make sure you start those accruals. And either way, you're going to have to, you are going to want to start documenting that you're providing sick time, even if it's unpaid. So what that basically means is if you just let people go home sick whenever they want to go home sick because you pay them hourly, and if you know for a fact that you have less than 4 employees, you probably just have to have in writing that, you know, you've informed your employees that they have unlimited sick time. But you really do want to make sure you have less than 4 employees. So, you know, a lot of growers that have 1 full-time employee and they have 10 people that prune their grapes, they probably have well over 4 employees. Even a small grower might have 10 employees that prune their grapes and no other employees, and they're only there for a few weeks. They might have more than 4, depending on how we count to 4.
I was muted because there are other Zoom meetings going on in my house and they were getting loud. Sorry.
Not a problem.
So as of today, right now, the only thing they have to worry about is just track the hours and start accruing the sick time.
Right. You want to do at least one hour for every 30, and probably not allow anyone to use that accrued sick time right now, unless you already have a policy of doing so. You just want to make sure you're in compliance with the regulations that don't exist yet before you start, I think, paying that out would be my recommendation. There are a couple other things we don't know we should probably touch on. We don't know how net income will be calculated. So, you know, if you do something like pay your employees on something besides an hourly rate, if there are bonuses involved, if there are piece rate payments being made, we do need to determine how they're going to be paid sick time and what their hourly rate looks like for sick time, because they're going to take off a number of hours when they're sick. They're not going to take off a number of lines.
Right.
There are some open questions about seasonal farm employees. I think they're probably more hopeful than anything else. I'm going to assume that seasonal farm employees are included in this calculation. We'll see if it gets redefined in the regulations somehow, but I wouldn't plan on it. So I would definitely track everybody.
You can't hear the Zoom going on, can you? I keep muting myself because I don't want to take away from your conversation. Can you hear that?
No, not at all. So
Okay.
if this feels like a lot, it's because it probably is. There's some math here. It's on top of the other regulations that have already rolled out for unemployment. If you haven't been subject to that, for workers' comp, if for some reason you weren't subject to that. and some of the other issues that New York State has rolled out in the last 12 to 18 months. Overtime pay, this is all math, and it's a lot of math. It's also money, but to help you with the math, we're definitely recommending that you move to payroll software at this point. If you're doing any amount of payroll, if you're more than 50 acres, or you're not doing all the pruning yourself, it's time to move to payroll software for the large majority of growers. $20, $30 a month might have seemed like a lot when payroll was simple, but to be honest with you, it's not a lot now. Because you're getting access to all this software, it makes this really easy. It makes sure that you're in compliance and your records are complete. And whether you were just trying to calculate FICA or you're trying to calculate all of these other things, the fee for using payroll software is essentially the same. So now that we've quadrupled the amount of work or more, the cost of the payroll software hasn't changed at all. So definitely something you want to look at. If you already have a sick leave policy, like I said before, there's going to be some fairly progressive employers that have to update their policy because of some of the mental health issues and domestic violence issues that are going to be covered under this law. So if you already have one, make sure you review it. And if you don't have one, you're obviously going to have one. We would certainly recommend training managers and employees about sick time. The training maybe should be a little bit minimal right now. So if this accrued sick leave starts to show up on their pay stubs, which it probably should, you just want to make sure that they know why it's there and what it means. And then before January 1st, I think you want to get a little more in depth about what your expectations are, when they can take a sick day, when they can't. You also want to make decisions about rolling the sick time over. So you have to allow the rollover and accrual of paid sick leave if you have more than 4 employees. It's got to be 40 hours of paid sick leave that is rolled over. So you want to make sure that you're tracking it in a way that supports your best interests. You want to pick, kind of a reset date. If they get over that 40 hours, does it reset on a calendar year basis, or does it reset as soon as they hit the maximum amount? Or do you want to include this as part of a more robust benefits package where they can save a little more than that? I think, each employer wants to strategically make that decision for themselves.
So we have a crop update coming out this week. It's going out tomorrow.
Sure.
Are you going to include information, possibly Richard Stupp's article, just right in there so they have that?
Yeah, I think we've covered everything here today, but it was a lot. So if you want to see it in writing and read it and use it as a reference, it'll be in the crop update tomorrow as well.
Perfect. Well, thank you. But just so not to throw another thing rod into the fire during harvest, it's fast and furious.
Not to do that, but here we're doing it.
But they need to at least start recording the 1 hour for every 30 hours for employees over 4.
No, so if you're over 4 employees, it has to be paid. If you're under 4 employees, you still have to do it.
Okay.
The only sort of loophole there would be some employees that are hourly. If an employer has all hourly employees, there are some farmers out there that just allow unlimited sick time. They just say, if you're sick, don't come to work. I'm not going to pay you. So if for some reason you're under 4 employees right now I would say count up how many people have worked for you in the last 365 days. And if it's more than 4 people, you're over 4. I think we'll get a better definition of that going forward, but for the meantime, use that definition when you start doing these accruals, just to be safe.
All intents and purposes, just start accruing sick time, every employee.
Right.
Okay.
And so for anybody over 4, that's going to be paid.
And you have to be in compliance with this, so you need to do that.
Yep. Well, I apologize for what might be construed as negative news. I know employers and farmers, want to treat their employees right. And certainly allowing people to stay home sick during COVID makes a lot of sense. But I'm sure even the most progressive growers are not looking forward to more paperwork, but here we are. So good luck with that. And if you have any questions, of course, we'll be here to try to help you through them and answer them. And look forward
Please
to
remember,
next week.
yeah, I'm sorry. Please remember that even though the physical location of the Cornell Research and Extension Laboratory is closed to visitors, we are here for you. Like, I have people calling me constantly, please get a hold of our cell phone. All of our information's on our website, our cell phone, by email. We are still, and I am still going out doing on-farm visits. So please get a hold of us that way. We don't want to think that we're not there for you because that building is closed. And apparently the phone number is also off at that building. So call our cell phone numbers.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot.
Have a great week, everybody.